Hi guys, this is Mark,
This is Michelle.
and this is Mark and Michelle.
Welcome.
Welcome.
Saturday night.
Yeah, it is Saturday night. Our live tonight is going to be about continuing in the same vein of why autism is problematic, right? And we're going to be talking about social issues with autism. Now, in my experience, we'll go through some of these. And this comes from my experience because I can't talk about other people with autism. I don't know. But considering that the general symptoms of autism seem to be the same no matter who has it, it kind of applies.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So what you got first, Mark?
All right. Well, let's see here. What do I think would be a good topic to start with? Let's talk about this because we talked about it a little bit last night. And we talked about it in an interview today with my mom. But bullying, all right? This is an issue that just comes with autism. It took me years to realize, after a couple of years at least, after I found out I had autism, to realize that I just stuck out. And in my experience, I think I stuck out because I couldn't interact appropriately with people. And
well, you probably appeared gullible. That's a
well, and I remember 1988, 87, 88, a guy I knew at that particular point, he was a Hawaiian guy. He pointed out to me that I was very gullible. I didn't like that. And because it's easy to be lied to when you're autistic because you tend to take everything literally. Now, I know a bunch of autistic adults who'd say that isn't true, but the truth is, it is true. If you can't tell when someone, it's not like we all have magic powers. NTs have magic powers and they can immediately tell when someone's lying to them. But I think you generally have a knowing, right?
Well, there's intuition.
There's intuition.
Which is completely blocked off in an autistic person, which we have discovered.
We have discovered, in my experience, that was the case. And, but we appear gullible. Truthfully, we appear childlike. And I think that is what really brings out the bullying behaviors in some people. Because we look simple. We look stupid. We're not. It's just that the autism itself causes that trait to look out, to stick out. Hey, Marlo, how are you? And so we are conspicuous in social situations, no matter what.
Was that your client that you had who got in trouble because someone told him to do something in?
Yes. I had a coaching client, and he had moderate autism. Well, I should say has moderate autism. And unfortunately, he was in high school at the time, but some guy came up to him and said, hey, as a joke, didn't tell him it was a joke, but said, such and such a girl, go punch her. Well, he didn't understand the consequences of that at all. And so he took the guy literally. He went and punched a girl and broke her nose. And he just didn't understand that the guy was just joking, may have been joking around with him. I actually think the guy was really picking on him.
Was pressing him to do something to get him into trouble.
Exactly. And so he told him, hey, go punch that girl in the nose. Right? He did. He broke the girl's nose. And he got suspended for a while. I'm not sure how long. But
it's hard to be autistic.
It is, because I had things like that happen to me. I mean, I didn't go punch a girl in the nose, but people would tell me something and I would immediately believe it because there was no way I could tell that they were either joking or lying. Right?
Right.
NTs, you have an implicit knowing when someone's joking. You have an implicit knowing sometimes, most of the time, when someone's lying. And so being an autistic person and not having that ability makes life very difficult. It really does. And when your boss comes up to you and says, hey, go wash my car, are you really going to do that? No. But most autistic people tend to take things literally. And so therefore, they might actually go do it until someone says, no, I was just joking. Man, I heard that so often in my life.
Yeah.
Right? Conspicuous in social situations. Why? Because we appear childlike, we appear gullible, and we stick out.
And there's nothing to fix that except heavy metal removal.
Right. And removing those heavy metals will change your life. And if you're interested, at some point I'll post articles, scientific articles on heavy metals and the autistic brain, because there's lots of them. All right, let's see here.
Interesting, we talked about misreading humor last night.
Oh, we did talk about misreading humor last night. And misreading humor,
in social situations.
well, in social situations, is just awkward.
Mm-hmm.
I remember people telling me, oh, that's beyond you, when I didn't get it. Or that just went over your head, didn't it? Well, it did. Most of the time, it just went over my head. Because NT humor is really, non-autistic humor is really based on conflicting emotions a lot of times, and twisting of emotions, and an emotional surprise or something, and if you don't, and as an autistic person, we're not geared to see that. And because our brain, that part of our brain just doesn't work like it should. And not because of different wiring, but because of faulty nutrition and probably poor wiring because of the faulty nutrition. But misreading humor can be a problem. And for instance, let's see, that while that's not in here, we talked about it a little bit last night, but high fives. Never could get those, It just was something that I didn't see. Now I get it. But it used to take me, when people did that, friends of mine at work, I say friends of mine, but coworkers will say that, when I was autistic, I would have to stop and look at it, and I would have to really think about if I was going to, I was very hesitant in doing it, and sometimes I'd just miss altogether, So, and that was when I was autistic. Now I don't have that problem.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ooh, here we go. Something I had a problem with, and it's taken a while through recovery to get past it. Inappropriate give and take in conversations. Now,
like when I would glaze over. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that would be one type of it. Or just unloading on people. Well, that's the same thing.
It's the same thing.
Yeah. Unloading on people about Napoleon. I did that. I did that a couple of times myself. I always found Napoleon an interesting historical figure. But I remember some friends of ours in Atlanta, I just let go about Napoleon, and talked about Napoleon. I was standing up and gesticulating and all this kind of stuff, and they were sitting on the couch all going
glazed over.
Yeah. And but talking over other people, I didn't do that much because I saw, for some reason, I was able to see how much trouble that caused other people and me. And I always got taught by my parents, don't interrupt.
Yes.
So I didn't interrupt. In fact, to the point of I just walk up to a conversation and stand there until somebody recognized me. Not who I was, but that I was there. Yeah, exactly. Now, oddly enough, and I know that this has happened to other autistic people. As an autistic person, you can walk up to a group of people and they will never see you.
Never acknowledge
They
you.
will never acknowledge you. And I finally figured out that what that is you don't give out the correct emotional responses for them to be aware of. Interact. Yeah, exactly. And I didn't. And when she and I ran a support group for adults on the spectrum, when I brought that subject up to them, they were like, oh, yeah, that happens to us all the time, And you just don't give out the appropriate cues for other people to pick up on.
Well, you're not sending out vibes.
Exactly.
You're like a mannequin standing there.
Yeah, you come across as blank to entities, you know. So inappropriate give and take in conversations, that can be a problem, because if you're just unloading on somebody, you're not actually learning about them. But then that brings me up to the next thing I want to talk about: great difficulty in maintaining relationships. Well, let's just say starting up and maintaining relationships, right? Because I told Michelle for years, well, I don't know how to make friends.
Tell them how you found me on the bus.
I didn't find her on the bus.
But you want to know now, don't you?
Right? But here's the story. About 3 weeks before I met Michelle, this is back in 1994, or maybe it was, I think it was just a few months before I met Michelle, I was having the rare awareness of feeling lonely. And hey, Joseph and Lacey, glad you guys showed up.
It's probably Helen.
It's probably Helen. That's true. And but a few months before I met Michelle, I had a rare feeling of feeling lonely, and was wanting somebody in my life. And so I was riding to work on the bus one day, and under my breath, I said, you know, and this was my very indirect way of talking to God at this point. So I said, you know, I really would like somebody in my life. See what you can do. Well, I just threw it out there, promptly forgot about it. And then a few months later, I meet her, which is cool. See, I didn't have to learn how to start the relationship up.
Right.
My higher power did that for me.
Right.
And so, and she was very aggressive in making sure I knew she was there.
I'm making sure he knew I was the one.
Well, and that too. And
I had to talk him into getting married too.
Well, I wanted to get married, but again,
but I wanted to get married really fast.
Well, you did, and we got married really fast.
Well, yeah.
We knew each other for a week and a half, and then I asked her to marry me. And then a month and a half later, we got married one day after I got off of work. We went down to the courthouse in downtown Decatur, Georgia, and got married. And I was all sweaty and nauseous, and it was like a 98-degree day in Georgia. Yeah. So anyway, but it was fun nevertheless. I look back on it now as fun. So, but great difficulty in maintaining relationships. I was discussing with my mom today. She goes, for most of the time that she's texted me, you know, for the most of the time that we've owned smartphones, her and I, she would text me something, and I may never answer back, or it'd take days to answer back. And then Michelle would prompt me, hey, have you texted back your mom? You know, then I'd text her back. Well, this latest round of heavy metal detox smoothies has removed enough heavy metals from my system. My mom has been quite excited and emotionally moved by the fact that I answer her back right away, and I answer her back with extra exclamation points. And
it's a thing, people. It's real.
It is. And because she is the queen of exclamation points, but apparently I am the duke of exclamation points. And so I'll put like 4 or 5 on the end of something, almost everything. And so they're abused between her and I. But she was happy about that, because now when she texts me back, I immediately answer back. She's been excited about that. And I do it with gusto, so to speak.
So maintaining a relationship before you remove the metals, though, took a lot on my part.
It did, because you had to prompt me to do things. And you also had to say, well, here are the proper behaviors. Mm-hmm. You know, now that was further back.
Right.
Because on the medical medium diet, so much is cleared out that I just pick up on what you need to on mostly what you need to maintain.
Yeah, it's amazing how much he's come on in the last 2 weeks.
Yes. And
crazy.
And you know, a big milestone was making my own friends outside of her group, of her pool of friends.
Right.
Because last October, I went out for the first time with a real friend of mine from work. And she finally came over to the house, and the 3 of us had dinner. We sat and talked. But my friend Jessica and I, we went out to coffee. Well, since then, I've gone out to coffee with another friend of mine, and then another friend of mine, and then I have another friend. She wants to go out to coffee too. Now they're all women.
Okay, so he's a social butterfly.
Yeah, pretty much. Now I am. I love it. Because
it's amazing what removing metals will do.
Exactly.
You can't do it. You can't do this stuff with the metals there.
No, you really can't, because it really interferes with how your brain works. And when your brain is being interfered with, you can't maintain social anything properly. You just can't. Let's see, anything else? Misreading social situations. When you say this round of detox,
so Marcus had done, we started our first round in January of 2018. And
I did 4 weeks straight of the heavy metal detox smoothie, a little more than that, about 32, 33 days. Well, then later last year.
The reason we stopped was because we were getting sick with strep over and over and over and over.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. So we pulled back on the extremely detoxing things.
Mm-hmm. And so we stopped. Well, then later in the year, in October last year, I started up, and I did it for about a week, but I overdosed on it.
And that's another problem that you didn't have. He came on too much.
Mm-hmm. Came on too much. Well,
too quickly.
Never had a night terror before until I overdosed on the heavy metal detox smoothie, and woke up during the middle of the night panicking and freaking out. I mean, like I've never felt it before, and it was weird. I mean, it was like a big crushing pain in my chest, just wringing my heart out of everything, and I was scared to death. And it was a vague fear, but it was not a vague terror. And so then in November, back in the end of January or February, I decided to go on the detox smoothie again, overdosed on it again then, and had a freak out at work, and she had to come save me.
Yes.
And nobody else knew but me and her.
I kept saying, why are you putting so much stuff in there?
What? Because I wanted to detox.
You wanted it out now.
Right? Because I'm super impatient. You can't. You have to take the heavy metal detox smoothie in low enough doses that you can manage your detox.
Yes.
Okay.
And we are doing that now, and it's working out very well.
For the both of us, because she's come on even more. In numerous ways. Oh, yeah.
Oh, tell me.
Well, romantically.
Oh.
And
did you see that?
Romantically. And but you interact with me a lot more now. You're also cheerier. You've always been pretty cheery, but you've been quite a bit more cheery, actually. Not that you ever really been, but yeah. So, but
that's
that
cool.
and we're interacting more spontaneously now.
But it's also because you're coming on more.
Well, but there's that. But it's not like you're not coming on.
Well, cool.
All right. So let's see. What else do we want to talk about? Inability to depth.
People think we're cute.
We are cute.
That's funny.
I agree. We're cute. And, misreading social situations, that's what all this is.
Yeah.
When you misread, for instance, here's a good example. This was a couple years before we started the diets, a couple years before I knew I had autism. We moved out here to Oklahoma City. I started at a Best Buy here working on the Geek Squad. And I'll tell you two stories.
You have a couple minutes.
I do. I won't make it long. And so two quick stories. There was an older gentleman. He came in and he looked me straight in the eye and he said, "My daughter died today." I said, "Okay." That's all I said. Just shook my head. The appropriate response is, "Wow, I'm really sorry to hear that." And to feel it from here and allow it to come up.
Right.
No, I said, "Okay." I mean, and the second one is a woman came in with her young daughter. I guess the woman is in her late 20s, early 30s. Her daughter is probably maybe 8, 9, 10. And this woman was wearing really skimpy clothing, and she bent down in front of me. I don't know if she purposely did it.
Because he was autistic, so he couldn't feel it.
Yeah.
Feel what was going on there.
Right. But I'm just sitting there looking. And her daughter, who's, again, 8, 9, or 10, says, "Mom, put it away." And then the little girl looks at me and says, "She does that all the time." And I was like, okay.
No reaction from
No,
Mark.
no reaction.
And all the guys in the back, what was you said?
Oh, they were dying laughing because they're like, "Oh man, didn't you get a good look?" And I'm like, "Looking at what, man?" You know. And you see, the whole social situation was misread by me.
What would be your advice to communicating with people that you think might have autism but aren't aware of it?
Well, we've had to think about that because we know quite a few people who do, because she either teaches them or we know them in our personal lives, and
you just don't cross that line.
You can, but to be honest, it's at your peril.
Yeah.
And not that they're going to hurt you, but you would lose them as friends probably. We had one of the people that we knew happened to be reading something, and she got upset because this sounds like me, but this isn't me, and she totally denied it.
You got to let people find their way on their own.
You do?
Pretty much.
You could, and I've heard of people doing this. You could say, look, it seems as if you have numerous traits of high functioning autism. I don't know if you do, but you might get it checked out. It might be a real help if you found out.
I don't think that's a wise thing to do.
Yeah.
It would depend on the situation.
Mm-hmm. And it really would.
If it's a child, I think that's different than if it's adult.
What would be the differences?
Well, because an adult has their coping mechanisms and they've got all of their gestalts in place.
Gestalt, systems of belief.
Yes.
Yeah.
But a child, you can say, oh, I noticed that they're doing this. Do you know what's going on with that? So you ask the parent.
Yeah.
So that's what I've done with my students who I've noticed things because I'm extremely aware.
Right.
And I'll just point like one little symptom and say, I was wondering what was going on with this because it's affecting this learning ability or something. So
there are ways
from like underneath it.
Yeah, around it, roundabout, beat around the bush. That's the best way to handle it if you've got to handle it at all.
We're over time.
We are. And guys, we talked about everything. Tomorrow night,
we start a new section tomorrow.
Oh,
why autism can be healed.
And it can.
Oh, can't wait.
All right, guys. See you tomorrow. Heavy Metal Detox Smoothie and Celery Juice.
Both things.
See you tomorrow at the same time. Bye.